Emeka Okonkwo thought he had planned the perfect humiliation. He'd sent the invitation himself, golden envelope, embossed lettering, front row seat with her name printed in his own handwriting. He wanted his ex-wife to sit there and watch him marry someone younger, more beautiful, more successful. He wanted her to see what she'd lost, to feel the weight of her inadequacy, while he stood at the altar in white agbara worth more than her monthly rent. He'd rehearsed the moment in his mind 100 times. She would arrive quietly, probably in the back, head down, maybe crying, definitely alone.
African Karma Stories.
His friends would see her and whisper. His new bride would glance back and feel satisfied. His mother would smile that cold smile of vindication. But when that black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to the Golden Tulip Hotel, when the door opened and Amara Okoli stepped out in bronze and gold like a queen returning from exile, when 3 identical boys in matching agbara emerged holding her hands, everyone froze. The cameras stopped mid-flash. Conversations died mid-sentence. His mother's hand flew to her chest. His best man grabbed his arm and whispered something he couldn't hear over the roaring in his ears. Because the woman he'd called barren, the woman he'd divorced for failing to give him a child, the woman he'd blamed for 5 years of empty nurseries and family shame, that woman was standing in front of his wedding venue with triplets, not 1, 3. And suddenly the wedding he'd planned to prove he'd moved on became the stage for a truth he'd spent years running from. A truth that would go viral within hours. A truth that would cost him everything he thought mattered. But to understand why that moment shattered Emeka's carefully constructed life, why his bride would walk away before saying "I do," why his own confession would trend across Nigerian social media for weeks, we need to go back. Back to when Amara believed marriage meant forever. Back to the family meeting where she was declared the problem without proof. Back to the divorce papers placed on the table like trash being taken out. Back to the hospital where a doctor would speak words that changed everything. "Mrs. Okafor, there is absolutely nothing wrong with you." This is the story of a woman who lost everything and discovered she'd actually lost nothing that mattered. Of a man whose pride cost him more than any medical condition ever could. Of a wedding invitation meant to shame that became a doorway to freedom. This is the story of how God answers prayers we stopped praying. How truth always surfaces no matter how deep it's buried. How the same people who measure you by your weakest moment will have to watch you rise without their permission. And it all started with a traditional wedding in Enugu, where promises were made that neither person understood would be tested by something beyond their control and broken by someone who refused to face the truth. The Golden Tulip Hotel stood tall against the Enugu skyline that Saturday afternoon in February 2027. Its glass windows reflected the sun, throwing golden light across the entrance where a red carpet had been rolled out that morning. White and gold balloons formed an archway. Roses, imported, expensive, lined the walkway. Security men in black suits stood at attention. This was not just a wedding, this was a statement. Emeka Okonkwo stood at the entrance in his white agbada with gold embroidery that caught the light every time he moved. The fabric alone cost 400,000 naira. His shoes were Italian leather, polished until they looked like mirrors. A thick gold chain rested on his chest. His watch, a Rolex, glinted as he checked the time for the 5th time in 10 minutes. He was 34 years old and looked like success personified. His Mercedes G-Wagon sat in the VIP parking area. His friends, other young businessmen in expensive clothes, stood nearby, laughing loudly, spraying expensive cologne that mixed with the scent of roses. Everything about the scene screamed wealth, power, arrival. Beside him stood Mama Okonkwo, his mother. She wore expensive coral lace in deep purple, with a gele head wrap so large it added 6 inches to her height. Gold jewelry hung from her neck, wrists, and ears. She was 62 years old and carried herself like royalty inspecting her kingdom. Her eyes scanned every arriving guest, noting who came with expensive gifts, who wore cheap lace, who brought many people, who came alone. This wedding had cost them nearly 15 million naira. The hall could seat 500 people. The cake had 7 tiers. The live band was flying in from Ghana. The photographer had shot music videos for famous artists. Everything had to be perfect. Everything had to prove a point. Guests arrived in waves, women in bright ankara and lace, men in senator wear and agbada. The parking lot filled with cars, Range Rovers, Lexus SUVs, Mercedes-Benzes. The air buzzed with greetings, laughter, the clicking of high heels on marble floors. Emeka greeted each important guest personally. "Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming." "Ah, Chief, your presence is a blessing." "Senator, we are honored." His smile was wide, confident. His handshakes were firm. He was the groom, the man of the hour, the successful businessman marrying a beautiful Lagos girl. Everything was going according to plan. Except he kept checking his watch, kept glancing toward the road, waiting for one particular guest. His best man, Ike, noticed. "Guy, why are you restless? Your bride is upstairs. The pastor is ready. Everything is set. Relax." But Emeka couldn't relax. He had invited one person specifically to witness this day. One person he needed to see his victory. His ex-wife, Amara. He'd sent her invitation 3 weeks ago, printed her name himself, reserved her a front row seat. He wanted her there, needed her there, so she could see what real success looked like, so she could understand what she'd lost, so she could sit in that hall, childless and alone, while he stood at the altar with a new woman who would give him sons. That was the plan. Clean, simple, satisfying. Then the Rolls-Royce arrived. At first, people didn't pay much attention. Luxury cars had been pulling up all afternoon, but this one was different. A Rolls-Royce Phantom in glossy black, the kind of car that costs more than most people's houses, the kind that makes everyone stop and stare. The spirit of ecstasy hood ornament caught the sunlight. The chrome gleamed. The car glided to a stop directly in front of the red carpet. The engine purred, then went silent. For a moment nothing happened, just the tinted windows reflecting the crowd's curious faces. Then the driver, professional, uniformed, stepped out and walked around to the passenger door. He opened it with practiced grace, standing aside. A bronze heel touched the red carpet first, then another. Then she emerged. Amara Okoli. She wore a flowing bronze dress that moved like liquid gold. The fabric was simple but elegant. No excessive beading, no desperate shine, just quality material cut perfectly to her frame. Her natural hair was styled in elegant braids that fell past her shoulders, woven with gold thread that caught the light. Gold earrings, simple gold necklace, minimal makeup because her skin glowed from within. But it wasn't the clothes that made everyone freeze. It wasn't even the car. It was the children. 3 boys, identical, 2 months old but alert, their wide eyes taking in the colors and noise around them. They wore matching cream-colored agbada with bronze trim that coordinated perfectly with Amara's dress, little embroidered caps on their heads. Their smooth brown skin, the same shade as their mother's, seemed to glow in the afternoon sun. Amara held Chimoibi's hand with her left, Chukwuebuka's hand with her right, and between them, little Kosi Sochukwu held both his brother's hands, forming a chain. 3 identical faces, 3 identical outfits, 3 living, breathing proofs of something everyone had been told was impossible. The crowd went silent, not gradually, all at once, like someone had pressed a mute button on the entire wedding. A woman in pink lace stopped mid-sentence, her mouth hanging open. A man taking a selfie lowered his phone slowly. The professional photographer swung his camera toward the Rolls-Royce automatically, his instinct telling him this was the shot. The security men straightened, unsure if they should be doing something. Then the whisper started, like wind through grass, spreading in every direction. Is that Amara? Emeka's ex-wife? She has children? Look again! Those are triplets! Triplets? But he said she was barren. That's what he told everyone. 3 boys? 3? Ah, this wedding just got interesting. At the entrance, Mama Okonkwo saw Amara first. Her hand flew to her chest as if physically struck. Her mouth opened. No sound came out. She grabbed Emeka's arm so hard her nails dug through his expensive fabric. "Emeka! Emeka, look!" Emeka turned. His eyes found the Rolls-Royce, found Amara, found the 3 children. His face went through 5 expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion. Who is that? Recognition. Wait, that's Amara. Shock. She's here. Disbelief. Those can't be. Panic. Everyone is watching. The gold watch on his wrist suddenly felt too tight. His expensive agbada felt too heavy. His throat closed up. He tried to speak, but nothing came out. Just air. His best man, Ike, stood beside him, blinking rapidly. Bro, are those... Is she... He couldn't finish the sentence. Amara didn't rush. She stood by the car for a moment, one hand smoothing Chimoibi's little cap, adjusting Chukwuebuka's collar, letting everyone see. The afternoon sun backlit her, making her look almost ethereal, like something from a dream or a reckoning. Then she walked forward, not slowly, not quickly, just steady, purposeful steps. Her sons walked beside her, their tiny shoes making soft sounds on the red carpet. Chimoibi looked up at all the people and waved his little hand. Someone in the crowd gasped. Someone else laughed nervously. Behind Amara, another woman emerged from the car, Obi Ageli, her best friend. Obi wore a matching bronze dress, simpler than Amara's, and she carried little Kosi Sochukwu when he got tired of walking. Obi's face showed no expression. She simply walked beside her friend like a guard, like a witness, like someone who knew exactly what this moment meant. The crowd parted. Not dramatically, they just stepped back instinctively, creating a clear path from the car to the entrance. Phones came out. Some people tried to be subtle about it, angling cameras while pretending to check messages. Others just held their phones up openly, recording, already thinking about the views this video would get. Amara reached the entrance. The red carpet ended at a small table where a young woman in coral lace held the guest list and programs. The usher, maybe 22 years old, probably hired for the day, stood frozen. Her hand holding the pen shook slightly. Amara's voice was calm, clear, the voice of someone who had nothing to hide and nothing to prove. "Good afternoon. Amara Okoli. I believe my seat is reserved." The usher's eyes went to the list. Her finger traced down the names, shaking. There it was. Front row, table 1, seat 3, written in handwriting that matched the signature on the invitation. Emeka's handwriting from 3 weeks ago, when he was so sure, so confident, so certain she would come broken. The usher swallowed hard. "Yes, ma. Front row. Welcome." Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Amara took a program. Thank you. Then she walked past Emeka. For one brief moment, maybe 3 seconds, maybe less, maybe more, their eyes met. Amara's gaze was steady, not angry, not smug, not sad, just clear, like someone looking at a chapter of their life that had closed completely, like someone who had moved so far forward that the past couldn't reach them anymore. Emeka saw it, that look, and it terrified him more than anger would have. Because anger means you still care. Anger means there's still a connection. But this calm, this peace, this complete indifference, this meant she was truly done, truly free, truly happy without him. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Amara, But she had already turned away. She walked past Mama Okonkwo next, her former mother-in-law, the woman who had called family meetings to discuss her inadequacy, who had suggested second wives, who had whispered barren behind her back at church. Mama Okonkwo stepped forward, her hand reaching out instinctively, her voice strangled. "Mama, those children, are they yours?" Amara stopped, turned slightly. Her voice remained polite, even respectful, the way you'd speak to someone you once knew but no longer have a relationship with. "Good afternoon, Mama. Yes, these are my sons, triplets, 2 months old." She gestured to each boy. "Chimaobi, Chukwuebuka, and Kosiso-Chukwu." Then she walked into the hotel. Obi followed. The automatic doors closed behind them with a soft whoosh. Outside, the entrance area remained silent for 5 full seconds. Then everyone started talking at once. "Did you see that? 3 boys, identical triplets. But he said he divorced her because so it wasn't her. That Rolls Royce, though. Did you see her dress? She looks amazing. Better than the bride." "Shh, don't say that too loud. Someone is live streaming this. This is better than Nollywood." Inside the main hall, the transformation was immediate. The Golden Tulip's presidential ballroom was enormous. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. White and gold fabric draped every surface. Roses, hundreds of them, created centerpieces on tables set with china and crystal glasses. The stage at the front had been built specifically for this wedding, elevated, with stairs leading up to where the pastor would stand. The front row had 5 reserved chairs with white fabric covers and gold ribbons. Name cards sat on each seat. Emeka's parents, his sister, 2 VIP guests, and 1 card that simply said, Amara. Amara sat in the center chair, placed her small purse beside her, arranged Chimaobi on her left knee, Chukwuebuka on her right. Obi sat beside her with Kosiso-Chukwu, who was getting sleepy and nuzzling against her shoulder. The hall was already half full, maybe 200 guests seated, with more streaming in. Everyone in Amara's section, the entire front half of the room, had turned around in their seats, whispering, pointing discreetly, phones angled toward her. A woman in the second row, elegant in green lace, leaned forward. Her voice was friendly, but her eyes were hungry for information. "Sister, those boys are beautiful. How old did you say?" Amara turned slightly, her expression open. 2 months. "Triplets?" "Yes, by God's grace." Her eyes widened further. God is wonderful." "He truly is," Amara agreed simply. Another woman, this one wearing elaborate gold jewelry, couldn't contain herself. "Sister, forgive me for asking, but are you Emeka's ex-wife?" Amara finished calmly. "Yes, we divorced some years ago." Her hand flew to her mouth. "And these are my children, with my current husband." Silence. Then, "Your husband must be a blessed man." "We're both blessed," Amara smiled softly. The conversations rippled outward. By the time the hall filled to 400 guests, everyone knew. The ex-wife was here with triplets, the same woman he called barren, the same woman he divorced. She's sitting front row in a Rolls-Royce looking like that with 3 healthy boys. Upstairs in the bridal suite on the 3rd floor, Chioma Nwachukwu stood in front of a full-length mirror. Her wedding dress was a masterpiece, white lace covered entirely with crystals that caught every bit of light. The bodice hugged her frame. The train flowed behind her for 6 feet. Her makeup artist had spent 2 hours on her face. Her hair was styled in elaborate waves, with a tiara nestled in the curls. She looked like something from a magazine cover. But she wasn't looking at herself. She was looking out the window that faced the entrance below. She'd seen the Rolls-Royce arrive, seen the crowd's reaction, seen Emeka's face from 3 floors up. Her chief bridesmaid, Uche, stood beside her, also looking down. The other 4 bridesmaids, all in gold dresses, hovered nervously behind them. "Chioma, you need to finish getting ready. The ceremony starts in 15 minutes. But Chioma wasn't moving. "Who is that woman?" she asked sharply, with the Lagos accent thick. "With the children." Uche shifted uncomfortably. I think that's his ex-wife. The one he said couldn't have children?" Uche nodded slowly. "That's what Emeka told everyone, that they couldn't—" She trailed off. Chioma turned from the window. "Then whose children are those?" No one answered. "Uche, whose children are those?" "I don't know. Maybe she remarried, maybe they're adopted, maybe 3 identical triplets?" Chioma's voice rose. "Adopted triplets? Do you think I'm stupid?" She grabbed her phone from the vanity, scrolled quickly, found Emeka's number, called. It rang and rang and rang. Voicemail. She called again. Again, voicemail. Her hand gripped the phone so tight her knuckles went pale. "Get him on the phone now!" One of the bridesmaids scurried out. Down in the hall, the tension was thick enough to cut. Guests kept arriving, but the energy had shifted. Which should have been joyful felt uncertain, nervous. People smiled, but their eyes kept darting to the front row, to Amara, to the boys. The choir filed in, 15 voices strong, wearing matching gold and white. They took their positions on the side stage. The band began setting up, drums, keyboards, guitars. The lead singer tested the microphone. Testing, 1, 2. The pastor appeared from a side door. Pastor Okoro, a tall man in his 50s with gray in his beard, wearing full clerical robes, he walked to the stage, surveyed the room, noticed the unusual energy. His eyes found Amara in the front row, found the triplets. His eyebrows rose slightly, but he said nothing, just took his position behind the podium and opened his Bible. Emeka was supposed to enter next. That was the program. Groom enters with his parents and best man. Bride enters last. But Emeka hadn't moved from the entrance area. He stood outside still, his expensive agbada suddenly feeling like a costume, like something he was wearing to play a part that no longer fit. Ike grabbed his arm. "Bro, we need to go inside. Everyone is waiting. The pastor is ready. Your mother is already seated. Come on." But Emeka's legs wouldn't move. "Those children, Ike. Those 3 boys. I saw them. So what? Maybe she adopted. Maybe they're someone else's. It doesn't matter. Today is your day. Your wedding. Don't let her ruin it." "But what if nothing?" Ike hissed. "You're getting married in 15 minutes. Get yourself together. Walk inside, stand at that altar, marry Chioma. Everything else can wait." Emeka nodded slowly, forced his legs to move, walked through the automatic doors, into the hallway, through the double doors to the main hall, and the moment he entered, every single person turned to look at him. 400 faces, 400 witnesses, all of them had seen the entrance. All of them knew the ex-wife was sitting front row with triplets. All of them were waiting to see what would happen next.
But to understand why this moment was about to unravel everything Emeka had built, why the wedding ceremony would never happen, why his own confession would echo through that hall before the day ended, we need to pause here. We need to rewind. We need to go back to where it all started, back to another wedding, back to promises made and broken, back to love turned toxic, back to the moment Amara's life shattered so we can understand how she rebuilt it stronger than before.
Let's rewind to December 2022. 4 years before the wedding that would never happen. 4 years before Amara would step out of that Rolls-Royce. Back to when she still believed love could survive anything. The traditional wedding took place at Amara's family compound in Trans-Ekulu, a middle-class neighborhood in Enugu where houses stood close together and neighbors knew everyone's business. The compound wasn't large, a modest bungalow with faded yellow paint, a small front yard with a mango tree, and a veranda where her late father used to sit reading newspapers. But that day it was transformed. White and gold fabric hung from the veranda railings. Plastic chairs borrowed from the church filled the yard. A canopy tent covered half the space. The air smelled of jollof rice cooking in large pots, pepper soup simmering, and the sweet perfume of women who had spent hours preparing for this moment. Amara stood in her mother's bedroom, surrounded by her bridesmaids. She wore a beautiful coral-colored George wrapper and matching blouse, the fabric stiff with newness. Coral beads, layers of them, hung around her neck, wrists, and ankles. Her hair was wrapped in a gele that Obi had tied after 4 attempts. Her makeup was simple but lovely. She looked like a bride should look, happy, hopeful, ready. Her mother, Mrs. Okafor, stood in the doorway wiping tears with the edge of her wrapper. She'd been a widow. Amara's father had died 3 years ago from diabetes complications, and she'd worked so hard to give her daughter this day. "You look beautiful, my daughter. Your father would be so proud." Amara's younger brother, Namdi, poked his head in. He was 21 then, in his 3rd year at the University of Nigeria, tall and lanky with his father's smile. "Sister, they're ready for you. Emeka's family just arrived." The compound erupted in noise. Car horns, ululation, drums. Emeka's convoy, 3 cars, including his silver BMW, pulled up. His family emerged dressed in expensive lace and agbada. Mama Nkonkwo wore purple with so much gold jewelry she glittered in the afternoon sun. Emeka's father, a retired contractor, wore white agbada and sunglasses. They walked into the compound like royalty visiting a village. But when Emeka stepped out of his car, even Amara's critical aunties had to admit he looked good. 30 years old then, tall, confident, wearing cream-colored agbada with gold embroidery. His shoes alone probably cost more than the entire wedding budget. He smiled widely, waving to Amara's relatives like a politician. Charismatic, charming, the kind of man mothers pray their daughters will marry. The traditional ceremony followed Igbo customs. The wine-carrying ceremony, where Amara searched the crowd with a cup of palm wine until she found Emeka and knelt before him. He drank, the crowd cheered. Money was sprayed, Naira notes falling like rain. The dancing was joyful. The prayers were long and heartfelt. Pastor Okoro from their church blessed the union. "What God has joined together, let no man put asunder." Emeka lifted Amara and spun her around. She laughed, genuinely happy. He whispered in her ear, "You're mine now, forever." And she believed him. She truly believed him. There was a moment, right after the prayers, right before the dancing started, when Mama Okonkwo pulled Amara aside, away from the crowd, behind the mango tree where no one else could hear. Her smile was gone. Her voice was low but firm. "Amara, I want to tell you something important. My son is my only son. He needs children, sons to carry the Okonkwo name. You understand? Amara nodded nervously. Yes, Mama. I am not talking about someday. I am talking about quickly. 1 year maximum. Don't waste time with career and all these modern ideas. Your job now is to give my son children. That's what will secure your place in this family. Amara's stomach tightened, but she forced a smile. Yes, Mama, we will try. Not try, do. Mama Okonkwo's eyes were hard. I have seen too many marriages fail because the woman focused on the wrong things. Don't be that woman. Then she walked away, leaving Amara standing under the mango tree with a knot forming in her chest. But the music was loud. The celebration was beautiful. Emeka was dancing with her mother. So Amara pushed the conversation away, pushed the warning away. Today was her wedding day. She wouldn't let anything spoil it. That night, she and Emeka drove to his house in Independence Layout, a much wealthier neighborhood with big houses behind high walls. His home was a duplex with marble floors, leather furniture, and a kitchen bigger than her mother's entire bedroom. This is your home now, he said, carrying her over the threshold. Everything I have is yours. She looked around the expensive rooms and thought about her mother's small house, about the years of sacrifice, about finally having security, having a husband who could provide, having arrived. I can't believe I get to spend my life with you, she whispered. He kissed her forehead. You've made me the happiest man in Enugu. If only happiness had an expiration date stamped on it, like milk in a refrigerator. Maybe they would have noticed. Maybe they would have prepared. But they didn't. So they moved forward blindly, confidently, into the slow disaster that was waiting. The first 6 months were good. Amara settled into married life. She continued teaching mathematics at excellent secondary school. Emeka expanded his import business, traveling to Lagos and Abuja frequently. They went to church together on Sundays. They visited both families. They looked, to everyone watching, like the perfect couple. But behind closed doors, a clock was ticking. Mama Okonkwo's clock. Month 3, she visited unannounced. Walked straight into the living room where Amara was grading papers. Amara, how are you? I'm fine, Mama. Should I make tea? No tea. She sat down heavily. I came to ask a simple question. Any news? Amara knew immediately what she meant. Not yet, Mama. Not yet? It's been 3 months. These things take time. Mama Okonkwo's face hardened. Time? My friend's daughter got pregnant on her honeymoon. Time is not something you have plenty of. You need to be serious. The visits became regular. Month 4, month 5, month 6. Each time the same question. Each time Amara's answer made the air thicker. And slowly, Emeka started to change. Not dramatically, not overnight, just small shifts. He came home later, talked less, spent more time on his phone. When Amara reached for him in bed, sometimes he turned away. I'm tired, business stress. But it wasn't business stress. It was his mother's voice in his head every Sunday after church. Emeka, what are you doing? 6 months and nothing? You need to be more serious. Make sure she's eating the right things, taking fertility herbs. Maybe she should see a doctor. By the 1-year mark, the joy was gone. The house felt different, colder. Even though nothing had changed physically, same marble floors, same leather couches, the atmosphere had shifted. Amara would come home from school and find the house empty, Emeka traveling, Emeka at a friend's place, Emeka anywhere but home. She started eating dinner alone, started sleeping alone some nights, started praying desperately in the empty guest room they'd planned to turn into a nursery. God, please, just one child, just one. I'll name him after you. Just please don't let me be barren. That word, barren, it started showing up in conversations, not from Emeka directly, but from his family, from church members who meant well but asked invasive questions. Have you seen a specialist? Are you taking any herbs? My cousin had the same problem until she went to this powerful prophet in Abba. Each question was a small cut. Each suggestion was an assumption of failure, and Amara absorbed them all. Started believing maybe something was wrong with her. Maybe she wasn't praying hard enough. Maybe God was punishing her for something. Year 2 arrived. Then year 3. Amara went to 3 different hospitals, blood tests, ultrasounds, hormone checks, uncomfortable examinations, pills that made her nauseous, injections that left bruises on her stomach. She went to every appointment alone. When she'd ask Emeka to come with her, he'd say, "It's a woman thing. The doctors want to check you, not me." She didn't argue. She just went, hoped, prayed, waited. Year 4 came with a new level of cruelty. Family gatherings became torture sessions. Emeka's cousin announced her pregnancy at a Sunday lunch. The women swarmed her, touching her barely visible belly, squealing with joy. Someone brought out a gift they'd bought on the spot. Prayers were said, songs were sung. And Amara sat on the couch in the corner, invisible, forgotten, the woman without news, the wife who couldn't. An auntie, one of Mama Okonko's sisters, walked past and said loud enough for others to hear, "Some people are blessed, some people are not. It's just life." Another auntie responded, "Maybe if she prayed more instead of focusing on that teaching job." They weren't even trying to whisper. By year 5, Emeka stopped defending her, stopped correcting his family when they made comments. Sometimes he even joined in. One night, after a particularly painful family dinner, they drove home in silence. When they got to the house, Amara tried to start a conversation. "Emeka, your auntie said something today that hurt me." "What did she say?" His voice was flat, disinterested. "She suggested I'm being punished for something, that maybe I'm cursed." "Well, are you cursed? Because 5 years, Amara. 5 years of waiting, of embarrassment, of people asking me why I don't have children. What am I supposed to tell them? Tell them we're trying. Tell them these things take time. Tell them, I'm tired of telling them anything." His voice rose. "I'm tired of making excuses. I'm tired of seeing everyone else's children while my house remains empty. I'm tired of you." That was the first time he said it out loud. "I'm tired of you." Not "I'm tired of the situation." Not "I'm tired of waiting." "I'm tired of you." As if she was the problem, as if she was failing on purpose, as if she chose this. The fights became frequent after that. Small things would trigger them. Amara forgetting to buy something from the market, coming home late from a staff meeting, laughing at something on TV. Anything could set him off. Because it was never about the small thing. It was about the one big thing, the absence, the empty nursery, the silence where a child's laughter should be. She stopped going out with friends, stopped attending weddings where people would ask, stopped posting on social media where former classmates showed off their growing families. She became smaller, quieter, a ghost in her own life. And Emeka became harder, colder, more distant. The man who'd spun her around on their wedding day now barely looked at her during dinner. Until October 2025, the month when everything finally broke. Amara packed 3 suitcases that night. Clothes, a few books, the jewelry her mother had given her for the wedding. She'd earned that. Her teaching certificates, photos of her father. She left everything else. The furniture he'd paid for, the kitchen equipment his mother had bought, the TV, the rugs, the curtains. Let him keep it all. She was done fighting for things that didn't matter. At 11 p.m., she sent a text to the one person she trusted, Obi. "Can I come over? I have nowhere else to go." The reply came in seconds. "Come now, I'm waiting." Obiageli Nwosu lived in a modest one-bedroom flat in Abakpanike, near the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital, where she worked as a nurse. It wasn't large, it wasn't fancy, but when Obi opened the door and saw Amara's face, saw the suitcases, she didn't ask questions, just pulled her inside and held her while she cried again. They sat on the couch until 2 a.m., Obi listening while Amara told her everything. The meeting, the suggestion of a second wife, Emeka's silence, the divorce papers, all of it. When she finished, Obi was shaking with rage. That wicked man, that wicked, wicked family. After everything you did for him, after you stood by him when he was still building his business, after you cooked for his family, cleaned for his mother, smiled through their insults. She stood up, pacing. And he couldn't even defend you? Couldn't even fight for you? Just sat there like a coward while they tore you apart? "Obi, please," Amara said tiredly. "I don't have energy for anger right now." "Well, I do. I have enough anger for both of us. That man is a fool. His mother is a witch. And mark my words, Amara, the truth will come out. Whatever is happening, whatever the reason for no children, it will come out, and they will regret this day." Amara wanted to believe her, but she was too tired, too broken, too empty. "Can I just sleep?" Obi's face softened immediately. "Of course. Take the bed. I'll sleep here." "No, I can't take your bed." "Amara, take the bed or I will carry you there myself. You need rest." Amara was too exhausted to argue. She climbed into Obi's bed, still in her teaching clothes, and fell into a sleep that felt more like unconsciousness. When she woke, it was 2 p.m. the next day. She'd slept 14 hours straight. Her phone had 23 missed calls, 15 from Emeka's sister, 8 from numbers she didn't recognize, none from Emeka himself. She didn't call anyone back, didn't read the messages, just turned the phone off. That first week was a blur. Amara didn't leave Obi's flat, didn't shower for 3 days, barely ate. Obi would come home from her shifts at the hospital and find Amara in the same position on the bed, staring at the ceiling. "Amara, you need to eat something." "I'm not hungry." "You didn't eat yesterday either." "Obi, please, I just need to sleep." But she wasn't sleeping. She was disappearing, becoming smaller, quieter, a ghost of herself. On day 4, Obi came home with pepper soup and physically sat Amara up. "Listen to me. I understand you're in pain. I understand you're broken. But you cannot let them kill you. You cannot let that man and his terrible family take everything from you, including your will to live." "They already took everything, Obi." "No, they took a marriage, a bad marriage to a weak man. But you're still here. You're still breathing. You still have your job, your mind, your future. Don't give them the satisfaction of watching you fade away." Something in Obi's voice reached through the fog. Amara took the pepper soup, drank it slowly. It was the first real food she'd eaten in days. The next morning she finally showered, changed clothes, sat on the couch instead of lying in bed. Small steps, baby steps, but steps. On day 8, Obi came home with a serious expression. "Amara, we need to talk." "About what?" "About getting real answers." She sat beside Amara. "You've spent 5 years being told you're the problem. You've taken pills, done tests, believed what his family said. But have you ever, truly, gotten comprehensive testing? Have you ever seen a real fertility specialist who could tell you the truth?" Amara shook her head. "I went to 3 hospitals. They did tests." "What kind of tests?" "Blood work, ultrasounds. They checked my hormones." "And what did they say?" "I thought about it. They said everything looked normal. But then they'd suggest more tests, more treatments, as if there had to be something wrong because there was no pregnancy." Obi leaned forward. "Exactly. They assumed, just like Emeka's family assumed, just like everyone assumed.
But Amara, did any doctor ever say definitively that you couldn't have children? Silence. Because no doctor had said that. They'd suggested possibilities, recommended treatments, but no one had said, Amara Okafor, you are infertile. Tomorrow, Obi said firmly, we're going to UNTH. Dr. Ifeanyi Nnamdi is a friend. He's a fertility specialist, a good one. He'll run proper tests and we'll get real answers. Not assumptions, not guesses, facts. Amara wanted to refuse. Wanted to say she couldn't face another doctor, another examination, another round of hope followed by disappointment. But something in her stirred. A tiny spark. What if Obi was right? What if everyone had been wrong? What if she deserved to know the truth, not for Emeka, not for his family, but for herself? Okay, she whispered. Okay, we'll go. That night, for the first time since leaving Emeka's house, Amara prayed. Not the desperate prayers of before, not the bargaining prayers, just honest ones. God, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why this is my life. But if there's truth to find, help me find it. And if I'm really broken, help me accept it. I just need to know. The next morning, they went to UNTH. The University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital was a massive complex, always busy, always crowded, but Dr. Nnamdi had made time for them. His office was small but organized, medical certificates covering the walls, anatomy diagrams, a kind face behind reading glasses. Mrs. Okafor, he greeted her gently. Obi told me a little of your situation. I'm sorry for what you've been going through. Amara nodded, unable to speak yet. I want to run comprehensive tests, blood work, hormone panels, ultrasound examinations, HSG to check your fallopian tubes, everything. And I want you to know, whatever we find, we'll discuss it honestly. You deserve truth, not assumptions. The tests took 2 days. They were thorough, uncomfortable, expensive. Obi insisted on paying. And then came the waiting. 3 days for all the results to process. 3 days that felt like 3 years. Amara tried to prepare herself for bad news, tried to build walls around her heart so that when the doctor confirmed what everyone believed, she wouldn't completely shatter. On the 3rd day, they sat in Dr. Nnamdi's office. He had a folder in front of him. Amara's entire medical history, her test results, her future in manila paper. He opened the folder, read silently for a moment. Then he looked up and smiled. That smile changed everything.
November 2025. The waiting room at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital felt more like a courtroom to Amara. Every tick of the wall clock hit her chest like a gavel. For 3 years she had worn invisible shackles, whispers at family gatherings, silence in her own bedroom, the constant reminder of a nursery that never filled. Now she sat with her best friend Obi by her side, clutching both hands together so tightly her knuckles turned white. Dr. Ifeanyi Nnamdi's office was lined with medical diagrams of the female reproductive system, certificates tucked neatly into polished wooden frames. He was a tall, gentle Yoruba man in his 40s, glasses perched at the tip of his nose, the kind of doctor whose voice made it easy to breathe, though Amara still felt as though the air in her lungs was running out. They had spent the last week running tests, blood work, hormone panels, scans, exams that left Amara shaky but determined. Today, the results were ready. The moment she sat down, she searched his face. She was trained as a teacher. She could usually read people instantly. But here, she saw nothing except calm professionalism. Dr. Nnamdi flipped through the folder slowly, page by page, his brows furrowing only slightly. Finally, he set it down, clasped his hands, and looked directly at Amara. A smile tugged gently at the corners of his lips. "Mrs. Okafor," he began softly, "let me go one step at a time. Your ovarian reserve, excellent. You are ovulating regularly. Hormone levels, all within ideal range. FSH, LH, estrogen, progesterone. Your ultrasound shows a perfectly healthy uterine lining. And the scan of your fallopian tubes? Clear." Amara blinked in confusion. I, I don't understand. Then why?" The doctor's tone grew firmer now, kind but deliberate, as though he needed this to pierce not just her ears, but her soul. "There is absolutely nothing wrong with your reproductive system. Nothing." It felt as if the room itself tilted sideways. Obi gasped beside her, a hand flying to her mouth. Amara's voice cracked in disbelief. But I was married for 5 years. Not once. Not even a miscarriage. Nothing. How?" The doctor leaned forward, elbows resting gently on the desk. "Amara, male factor infertility accounts for 40 to 50% of all infertility cases. Low sperm count, motility issues, morphology problems, these are more common than most families are willing to admit. Tell me, did your husband ever agree to testing?" Silence. Amara dropped her gaze, feeling the weight of 5 years pressing down on her shoulders. Slowly, she shook her head. "No," she whispered. "No. He refused, said it was a woman's issue." Obi muttered under her breath, "That man." But Dr. Namdi kept his eyes on Amara. "My dear," he said gently, "if there was a fertility issue in your marriage, the medical evidence suggests it was not you. Your body is capable of conceiving and carrying a child." Something inside Amara broke open. 5 years she had lived cursed by words, barren, failure, disappointment. Now the truth hit her like both salvation and cruelty. Her body was not broken. It never had been. Her tears came fast, trembling shoulders, sharp breaths as her entire chest heaved with release. Obi grabbed her hand tightly, whispering, "You see, I told you, Amara, it was never you." Through her tears, Amara saw the doctor extend a box of tissues. His words were slow, steady, anchoring. "Write this in your heart, Amara. Your body is not broken. It never was. When the right circumstance comes, you will have children. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." The words echoed, steady like bells. Outside, when they finally left the hospital, Obi was practically dancing in the parking lot, waving the test results like a victory flag. "I knew it, my sister! That wicked man and his mother! God has shamed them!" But Amara couldn't even summon a smile. She held the papers close to her chest, numb. Part of her wanted to storm into Emeka's office and slap the folder onto his mahogany desk, watch his arrogance crumble. Another part wanted to disappear completely so he would never know the truth. Obi looked at her knowingly. "You're thinking of telling him, aren't you?" Amara said nothing, just nodded faintly. Obi shook her head firmly. "No," she said, voice laced with fire. "He made his choice. He never stood for you, never even checked for himself. Let him live in his ignorance. You owe him nothing." That night, Amara folded the medical papers slowly, slid them into her handbag, and sat quietly in front of her reflection. She felt the shame she had been carrying begin to crack. Maybe, just maybe, she could grow something new from here. December 2025. Amara took her first deep breath in months, this time not in a hospital, but over a pot of simmering jollof rice. She had started cooking again, properly cooking, not just boiling rice and leaving it to sour while she stared at the wall. Obi, ever the soldier of loyalty, had dragged her into her tiny kitchen one evening, placed tomatoes, onions, and fresh peppers on the counter, and said with a grin, "We're cooking, whether you like it or not." And so they did. She began preparing food for Obi's nursing colleagues. Just one cooler of jollof rice, a tray of fried plantain. The nurses begged for more. The next week, it doubled. The week after, doubled again. By January, Amara took a deep breath, pulled the last of her savings, and set up a small wooden stand near New Haven Market. Her sign, hand-painted and leaning slightly to one side, read simply, "Amara's Kitchen, made with love." The very first day, she sold out by 2 p.m. Little by little, confidence returned to her bones. In February, she rented a narrow storefront, painted the walls yellow and white, and bought 2 second-hand tables and 8 mismatched chairs. Customers filled them by lunchtime, not only for the food, but for the way Amara remembered names, asked about people's families, and pressed an extra spoon of stew into your container if she thought your day looked hard. Her Instagram, opened by Obi with 0 expectations, began to climb. Photos of her food, tagged simply, posted honestly. No filters, no gimmicks, just substance. But perhaps the greatest change happened in the mirror. By March 2026, Amara chopped her hair short into a natural style, smiling faintly as she watched curls bounce in the bathroom glass. She bought a neat set of new Ankara dresses, nothing flashy, just clean and radiant. And perhaps for the first time since she packed those 3 suitcases in tears, her smile reached her eyes again. Of course, bad days still came, nights when memories returned like thieves, when she stared at the ceiling fighting silent tears, but they did not dominate anymore. Healing was slow, uneven, imperfect, but it was happening. Obi noticed and said one evening, half laughing through her own emotions, "My sister, you look like yourself again. No, even better than yourself. You look free." One Sunday after service, while Amara wiped her hands after the fellowship, a woman approached her quietly. "My daughter is getting married next month. I heard you cater. 50 guests. Can you handle that?" Amara blinked, heart racing, then nodded. "Yes, Ma, I can." She stayed up that night writing shopping lists, calculating every tomato and pepper, every bag of rice. The wedding came. She catered it flawlessly. The bride's mother danced through the reception with a smile, later posting Amara's details on her WhatsApp status. Within a week, Amara had 3 more bookings. Her business was no longer just about survival. It was blooming. And with every new order, every happy customer, Amara rebuilt not just her finances, not just her reputation, but her self-worth. She was no longer the woman discarded, no longer the woman covering her face in shame. She was Amara, the woman who cooked her way back into the world. April 2026. By now, Amara's kitchen had become a small beacon of comfort in Enugu. Taxi drivers swung by for quick takeaways. Businessmen in rolled-up sleeves cooled themselves under the yellow and white walls, and students came to gossip over plates of yellof and fried plantain. And then he walked in. It was lunchtime on an unusually hot Tuesday. A man stepped through the doorway, average height, shoulders straight, a satchel worn from years of use hanging across his chest. He wasn't flashy, wasn't decorating himself in gold or fragrance like Emeka used to. Just simple jeans, a button-down shirt rolled neatly at the sleeves. His air was easy, not demanding. He ordered quietly, "1 plate of jollof rice with plantain, please." His voice was deep but modest, like someone used to being heard without raising volume. He chose the corner table by the window, spreading building plans across the wood while eating each bite slowly. Not once did his hand wander to check his phone, unlike every other customer glued to screens. Amara noticed, raising an eyebrow from behind the counter. He ate like a man with patience, focused, deliberate. Even when the rush began around him, he didn't seem disturbed. The next day he came again. Same order, same corner table, plans spread open beside him. And then the day after that. By the third visit, Amara's young helper, Chidera, giggled in the back. "Sister Amara, that man likes you." Amara chuckled quietly. "He likes the food," she replied, shaking her head. But she did notice how he always cleaned his area before leaving, how he tipped, not extravagantly, but with clear respect, how he once stepped in gently when another customer scolded Chidera harshly, saying, "Please, let's respect people. She's helping all of us." By the fifth day, curiosity got its way. Amara approached his table with a raised brow. "You're building something?" she asked, nodding at the diagrams. He looked up, eyes kind but direct. "Trying to. I design low-cost housing projects, using sustainable materials so even poorer families can own safe homes. It hasn't been easy convincing investors, but some things are worth the struggle." There was no bragging, just quiet conviction. "That's beautiful," Amara said softly. He smiled. "Coming from the woman feeding half the neighborhood, that means a lot." She laughed, really laughed, a sound that startled her as much as him. She hadn't noticed it had been months since her laughter felt that light. They introduced properly. His name was Dubem Okoli, 32, an architect, widowed 3 years earlier. He returned every day that week. And then, one afternoon, tables were full and a long queue pressed forward. He stood ready to leave in resignation. For the first time, Amara stopped him. "You can sit here if you don't mind waiting," she said, motioning to the empty chair behind the counter. He hesitated, then smiled gratefully. That single meal together turned into their first real conversation, the kind that stretches effortlessly like old fabric. He told her about losing his wife, Chidinma, during childbirth, how for years he drowned himself in work to numb the pain, how just recently he felt ready to live again rather than merely survive. Amara found herself opening too. She admitted she was divorced, said vaguely it ended painfully, but left the sharp details for another day. Dubem only nodded quietly and replied, "The fact that you're still kind after what you've gone through says more than the story itself." The next afternoon, for the first time, he didn't come. Strangely, Amara noticed. The disappointment caught her off guard, making her scold herself inwardly. "Don't do this again. Don't let your heart wander where it shouldn't." But the following day, he appeared, this time carrying fresh yellow roses. Not extravagant, not a bouquet dripping with money. Just simple roses, carefully chosen. "I'm sorry I missed yesterday, Abuja meeting," he explained. Then, with a sheepish grin, "But I thought about your yellof rice the entire time." Amara blinked, lips curving despite herself. She accepted the flowers cautiously. Behind her, Chidera squealed into a cooking pot. It was official. Amara was smiling again, and danger of hope crept softly back into her chest. That night, as she placed the roses in a cup of water in her small kitchen, a terrifying realization dawned. She was falling in love again, and this time she had more to protect than before. The fragile piece she had rebuilt from ash. May through July 2026. Dubem asked Amara to dinner. She almost refused. Old panic rose quickly. What if this is another trap? Another Emeka hidden beneath kind eyes? But Obi, the eternal drill sergeant of love, practically shoved her out the door. "Woman, if you let that man go because of that idiot Shadow, I swear I won't forgive you." So Amara went. Dinner was at the quietest local spot. No flashy hotels, just wooden tables beneath dim yellow bulbs, grilled fish seasoned to perfection, and a soft breeze lifting plastic curtains. They talked for 4 hours straight. Dubem spoke honestly about grief. "Chidinma was my best friend. Losing her broke me. But I learned something. Grief and love can coexist. I can honor her memory and still choose to live again." Amara admitted her fear openly. "Last time I trusted without question. I was discarded as if I didn't matter. How do I know it won't happen again?" Dubem didn't rush, didn't throw promises. He simply extended his hand across the table, palm open, not taking, just inviting. "You don't know, neither do I. That's the frightening beauty of love. But I see you, Amara. Not your past, not what you can give, just you. That's enough for me." And for the first time in years, Amara placed her hand gently into another's, by choice, not fear. And it felt different, light. Weeks grew into patterns, Sunday afternoon walks by Nike Lake, conversations about teaching, about cooking, about architecture. He met Obi, who interrogated him like a police detective, before finally admitting, later to Amara with a grin, "This one's eyes don't lie, he's real." But fear didn't vanish overnight. Every so often it resurfaced, crashing like waves, especially one night when Dubem mentioned casually how he hoped for children someday. Amara froze. The words dragged her straight back to Emeka's living room, the tribunal of relatives, the silent judgment that cut her in two. She nearly pulled away completely. But this time she explained, told Dubem everything, the 5 years lost, the humiliation. Finally, the results at UNTH proving her body had been healthy all along. Dubem's response was life-changing in its simplicity. He didn't pity her, didn't sermonize, just took her hand. "Thank you for trusting me. Whether we have children, adopt, or it's just us traveling the world trying your jollof in every country, we'll make a life. You are not your womb. You are whole already. That's who I've chosen." And Amara sobbed, not tears of sorrow, but tears of a shattered chain finally falling away. By September 2026, Dubem asked her to marry him. Not with fireworks, not with spectacle. They were standing in his office, surrounded by blueprints for community housing, his model building spread across a table. He turned to her and said gently, "Let's build this life together, as partners, as equals. Marry me." Her yes was immediate, this time whispered with certainty. "Yes, yes." The wedding was small and beautiful. October 2026 at Nike Lake Resort. Just 50 guests, their real ones. Amara wore cream lace that hugged gracefully. Dubem wept openly as he said his vows, and no one laughed at him. Nandi walked her down the aisle, proud beyond words. Obi in white and gold danced until her voice cracked from laughter. There was no drama, only joy, and that was what Amara treasured most, peace. That night, lying beside Dubem in gentle silence, Amara whispered into darkness, "I didn't think I would ever be this happy again." He kissed her forehead and replied, "You deserve every drop of it." But just 6 weeks later, in November of 2026, Amara sat on the bathroom floor staring at 2 lines on a test strip. Positive, pregnant, nausea rising like waves of shock. She had longed for this moment for years, but when it finally came, it terrified her all over again. November 2026. The ultrasound room at UNTH was quiet, but inside Amara's heart, a storm was raging. Dubem sat beside her, holding her hand the way he always did, with steadiness, as if the weight of the world wouldn't shake him. They had come expecting one heartbeat, maybe two if God had decided to sprinkle a little extra joy. Amara lay nervously on the exam table, gown rustling softly, the cool gel spread across her belly. The technician moved the wand carefully, eyes narrowing, then widening, then narrowing again. She frowned, not in fear, but in concentration, and moved the probe again. Amara's voice trembled. Is something wrong?" The technician glanced at her, smiled, and said lightly, "No, Ma, just let me call Dr. Namdi." Those 2 minutes waiting for him felt like 2 years. Amara's mind bounced between terror and desperate hope. Her free hand rubbed the chain on her neck, silently repeating prayers. The door opened, and then came the same calm, reassuring figure who once told her, "You are not broken." Dr. Namdi leaned over the machine, scanned the screen, then broke into the largest grin Amara had ever seen on his face. "Well," he said warmly, "Mrs. Okoli, do you see these 3 tiny flickers?" He pointed to the screen where, unmistakably, 3 pulsing dots glowed like soft stars. Amara squinted through tears. "Yes, doctor, but what does it mean?" He chuckled, eyes twinkling. "It means you are carrying 3 babies, identical triplets. Congratulations." Silence fell. Dubem blinked, then stood up, then sat down, then stood up again. Finally, he laughed and cried in the same breath, "3! 3! Ah, God, you're too much! You're showing off!" He kissed Amara's hand like it was a prayer bead. Amara herself lay frozen, staring at the screen. "3 babies?" her voice cracked. I was told—" Then she stopped. The words barren, cursed, empty flooded her memory, and she let them fall away in the same moment. A tear slid down her cheek as she whispered, broken and trembling but filled with joy, "God didn't just answer. He proved himself." By January 2027, Amara delivered 3 healthy boys by scheduled cesarean. She held them all against her chest, tears falling freely, overwhelmed by the weight of miracles in her arms. Dubem had chosen their names carefully. Chimaobi, God knows my heart. Chukwuebuka, God is great. Kosiso Chukwu, as God wills. Each name was a rebuke to shame, proof that every sneer, every whisper from the past had been powerless. Obi nearly fainted when she saw them for the first time. "Nawa'o! Amara, from barren to triple blessing! If anyone ever doubted God, let them see this!" News spread quickly across their family and friends. The same relatives who once whispered behind their palms now spoke with reverence. "Indeed, this is the doing of the Lord." Church members chorused, "God is good," each time Amara walked in with the baby strapped carefully in slings. And yes, even strangers on the street would crane their necks, whispering, "Triplets? All at once? Chai, God is wonderful!" But even in joy, life was sleepless chaos. Triple diapers, triple night feedings, triple wailing choruses at 3 a.m. Dubem changed nappies with military precision, taking turns as naturally as if he had been born with triplet handling training. Their house rang with laughter, love, and exhaustion, but never complaint. And even amidst everything, Amara's kitchen did not stop growing. She hired extra help, delegated management, and made sure the business kept thriving, even while bottle sterilizers and pacifiers filled her counters. Amara often sat quietly, her boys settled against her chest, whispering words only heaven could fully understand. "Thank you, Lord. You didn't just restore, you overflowed." But across town, while Amara's nights were filled with lullabies and baby cries, and Mecca was preparing for something very different, his wedding. and he had a very peculiar idea in mind for who should stand on the guest list: his ex-wife. March 2027. The triplets were barely 2 months old when the message came. Amara was rocking Kosi Sochuku to sleep when her phone buzzed, a WhatsApp number she didn't recognize. The words on the screen made her blink twice. "Hello, Amara. This is Emeka. I'm getting married next month. I'd like you to attend. I've sent the invitation to your mother's address." Amara froze, staring. For a moment she thought it was a cruel prank. But then, 2 days later, a golden envelope arrived at her doorstep. Thick card embossed with lettering: "Emeka Okonkwo and Chioma Nwachukwu request your presence at their wedding. Golden Tulip Hotel. Front row reserved." The reservation handwriting was Emeka's own, bold, confident. Amara held it silently, the absurdity nearly making her laugh. Obi, however, nearly exploded. "What? The audacity of that man! He discards you like old cloth, then drags you out to parade at his new wedding. My sister, you are not going!" Dubem simply frowned, rubbing his chin slowly. "He wants something. Maybe to prove he's moved on, to make you small in front of others, to rewrite the story." Amara stroked her baby's cheek, whispering, "Or maybe he needs to see what God has done." That night she considered both choices: ignore him entirely, or walk in and own her truth. She prayed, weighed, listened to her spirit, and finally her answer came clear. She would attend, not to fight, not to gloat, not to prove, but to close the door forever. Dubem did not argue. Instead, he made preparations quietly. He rented a Rolls-Royce Phantom from Lagos, ordered custom outfits for the boys, cream agbada trimmed with bronze, commissioned a bronze dress for Amara herself, fitted to perfection, woven with subtle gold that glowed under light. Obi, of course, nearly danced at the plan. "Yes, if we are going, it is front row glory. When you enter, even angels will look down from heaven to witness." On the morning of the wedding, Amara dressed slowly, carefully. Her bronze gown shimmered as though kissed by sunlight. Her hair, natural and braided majestically, laced with gold accessories. Minimal makeup. She didn't need much. Peace radiated from her skin, and no powder could mimic that glow. The boys looked like miniature kings in their agbadas, calm and curious in little matching caps. As the Rolls-Royce purred toward the Golden Tulip Hotel, Amara looked out the tinted glass at the streets of Enugu, bustling as always. But inside her heart, there was stillness. No trembling, no racing heartbeat, only peace. Obi turned toward her, dead serious for once. "Tell me true, Amara. Are you sure about this?" Amara smiled faintly, eyes warm. "Yes, completely. This isn't about him anymore. This is about me, about closure." The car rolled to a stop at the hotel entrance. Through the glass, Amara saw him standing tall at the door, agbada gleaming, checking his watch. Guests crowded, cameras flashing. He was waiting, confident, expectant. And he had no idea what was about to hit him. The driver stepped out, circled the car, and opened the rear door. Bronze heels touched the red carpet. The crowd gasped, and for the first time since she packed her suitcases years ago, Amara stepped not as a discarded woman, but as victory itself, with 3 living proofs at her side. The Rolls-Royce Phantom purred to silence outside the Golden Tulip Hotel. Inside, Amara inhaled deeply. Obi reached over, squeezed her hand, and whispered, "Ready?" Amara nodded once. "Let's go." The driver circled the car and opened the passenger door. The first thing to touch the red carpet was bronze leather heels. Then, slowly, majestically, Amara stepped out of the car. Her bronze gown shimmered in the afternoon sun, capturing light and scattering it into golden flecks. Her braided hair, crowned with gold accents, seemed almost like a halo. For a single heartbeat, she paused, straightened, and adjusted her dress. That pause was all it took. The crowd turned. Conversations faltered mid-sentence. Invitations slipped from fingers. A groomsman froze with programs halfway out of his hand. Even the hotel photographer swung automatically, lens locking on her like prey. And then 3 tiny faces followed. Obi passed each child down carefully. Chimobi to Amara's left, Chukwabuka to her right, and Kosisochukwu toddling between them, tiny fingers grasping his mother's hand and his brother's sleeve. Cream agbada with bronze trim, matching caps, identical faces blinking with curiosity at the glittering spectacle before them. The whispers started low, like rustling grass in Harmattan. "Wait, is that Amara? Emeka's ex-wife? She has children." "No, not one. Look, 3, triplets. He swore she was barren." Phones flew up. Screens glowed. This was no longer a wedding. It was a live stream sensation. Viewers across Enugu and soon across Nigeria would bear witness. At the hotel entrance, Mama Okonkwo caught sight of Amara first. Her manicured hand clutched her son's arm so tightly, Emeka winced. Emeka, look!" Emeka turned, impatient, confident, and then his face shattered. Recognition hit his eyes like a hammer blow. Confusion twisted to disbelief, disbelief to panic. His lips parted, but no words came. The smug groom in gold-threaded agbada suddenly looked like a boy caught stealing fruit. His skin drained in color. His Rolex-heavy wrist trembled. Still, Amara walked forward, slow, purposeful, silent. Each step seemed orchestrated by heaven itself. The crowd parted instinctively. Children waved. Chimobi waved back, grinning with innocent charm. Laughter mingled with sharp whispers. Triplets. He was the problem all along. At the entrance stood the usher, a young woman in coral lace, gripping her pen nervously. Amara extended her hand with calm grace. "Good afternoon. Amara Okoli. I believe my seat is reserved." The usher's eyes darted to the guest list, and there it was, front row, written weeks earlier by Emeka in his very own proud handwriting. The pen trembled as the usher whispered, "Yes, ma'am. Front row. Welcome." Amara walked past him. For one frozen moment, her eyes locked with Emeka's. She did not smile, she did not frown. She simply looked through him, and it was enough. Mama Okonkwo's voice cracked like splintered wood. "Amara, those children, they are—" Amara inclined her head politely. "Good afternoon, Mama. Yes, these are my sons, triplets, 2 months old." She offered no further explanation, then walked on. Inside the hall, chandeliers glistened over white and gold drapery. Roses cascaded across the altar. Crystal glasses caught light on decorated tables. But no one cared about the decor anymore. All eyes followed the bronze-clad woman and her 3 small kings as they claimed the front row like royalty reclaiming a throne. Obi settled in beside her, baby on her lap. Amara sat with two boys balanced calmly against her. She adjusted their caps, kissed one forehead, then looked forward, unbothered, serene. The hall buzzed like electricity. Phones recorded every detail. Guests whispered instead of singing along with the choir. And up in the bridal suite, Chioma, the bride herself, pressed her hands against the glass window pane, veil shivering as she stared down. "Who is that?" she demanded sharply. Her chief bridesmaid shifted nervously. I think that's Emeka's ex-wife." "The one he said she couldn't have children?" "Yes," another bridesmaid muttered. "Then explain to me," Chioma hissed, "why she is standing there with three." Silence. Chioma turned away, the cold weight in her stomach dropping lower. "Get him on the phone, now!" But Emeka was unreachable. He stood backstage, hiding in shadows, knuckles white against a table edge, lungs heaving. He could not look again at the woman he once discarded, not with those three living proofs following at her side. And in that moment, before vows, before rings, before even the bride appeared, his entire facade was already collapsing. Backstage, chaos simmered. The pastor stood at the altar, Bible in hand, scanning the restless crowd. Guests fanned themselves, whispering, "Why the delay?" Aunties muttered superstitions. "Starting late can spoil a marriage." Meanwhile, Emeka sat with his head buried in his hands. Ike, his best man, leaned over urgently. "Guy, what is wrong? Everyone is waiting. The pastor is waiting. Your bride is waiting." Emeka's voice was barely audible. "Those children, did you see them?" Ike rolled his eyes. Yes, what of it? Maybe she remarried. Maybe adoption. She's moved on. Focus! This is your day!" But Emeka shook his head violently. "No, they're hers. They look like her. All three!" Suddenly, footsteps thundered across the stairs. Bridesmaids gasped. "Chioma! Wait! You can't!" But there was no stopping her. Chioma stormed into the backstage chamber in her white crystal gown, veil tossed back, lipstick trembling from anger. She glared at Emeka. "Is that your ex-wife, sitting in my front row?" His head jerked up. He could barely form words. "Chioma, listen." "With 3 children?" she pressed, voice slicing like a blade. He stammered. "Yes, but she was barren. That's why she was barren?" The choir's soft prelude could not smother the sound of her fury. Staff froze, eyes darting. "You told me she was barren. That's why you divorced her. That's why you pitied yourself as a victim. Did you ever get tested yourself?" Silence. Her eyes widened. "Answer me, Emeka. Did you ever step foot in a doctor's office?" Still no words, just shame burning in his throat. The silence was louder than screams. Chioma's laughter came bitter, shaking. "So you destroyed that woman? Let your family humiliate her? Abandon her? Without once checking yourself? You gambled her dignity on your pride?" Emeka's lips trembled. "My mother said, everyone said it was her. I believed them." She shook her head in disgust. "And for 7 months I have been trying, praying, fasting, wondering what's wrong with me, when all along it was you." Tears cut down her makeup. She ripped her engagement ring from her finger, the diamond glittering as it clattered onto the table. "I will not be another casualty of your pride." The bridesmaids gasped. Ike cursed under his breath. The sound of crystal-sharp betrayal sliced through the room. With no hesitation, Chioma lifted her gown, strode upstairs and out the hall. Her bridesmaids scrambled but couldn't stop her. The crowd gasped as the bride emerged, face streaked, ringless, steps furious. Someone's Instagram live stream surged to 3,000 viewers. Comments flooded. "Wedding canceled? Is that the ex-wife? Omo, this is Nollywood Live." And in row 1 sat Amara, gently bouncing chukwabuka, eyes calm, lips sealed. She wasn't gloating, she wasn't smiling, she was simply free. The pastor tapped on his microphone. "It appears we will not be proceeding with this ceremony today." But no one moved. Every eye turned toward the back entrance, waiting for one man. Waiting to see whether Emeka himself could still stand. At last Emeka emerged. His agbada hung loose now, sweat staining the white. His face sagged like gravity itself had doubled. He walked straight to Amara. Every phone tracked his steps. Silence fell until the sound of children's tiny breaths was the loudest in the room. He stopped 3 feet away. "Amara," his voice cracked. I need to know. Are they yours?" Amara rose slowly, handing one boy to Obi. She met his eyes. "Yes, they are my sons. Mine and my husband's." Whispers broke like waves. "Husband." Emeka staggered. You remarried?" "Yes," Amara replied calmly, "to a man who values me beyond my womb, who stood beside me instead of over me, who cherishes me not for what I can produce, but for who I am." Emeka searched for protest, for denial, but the words stuck. "But the doctor said you couldn't." Amara's eyes hardened. "No, you said you couldn't. You refused every test. You condemned me without proof. I went to UNTH after you discarded me. They told me the truth. My body was never broken." The crowd gasped aloud. Mama Okonkwo let out a wail, covering her face. Amara gathered her children, her purse. Her voice dropped one final truth like iron. "I didn't come to gloat, Emeka. I came to show the truth. God doesn't punish the innocent. He vindicates them." She turned toward the doors. The crowd parted instinctively, murmurs chasing her steps. But behind her, a voice shattered the silence. "I'm the one!" Everyone froze. Emeka stood trembling, tears streaming. His words echoed into a hall packed with witnesses. "I got tested this morning. The doctor confirmed it. Low sperm count. It was always me." Phones recorded. Guests gasped. His own confession sealed the moment forever. And with that single statement, every whisper, every accusation, every shadow of shame Amara once bore melted into air. Her vindication was complete. By evening, clips of the golden tulip wedding were everywhere. Every angle, every gasp, every frozen face uploaded in record time. TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, thousands of shares. Headlines raced through blogs. Rich groom humiliated at wedding as ex-wife arrives with triplets. Amara Okoli vindicated. From barren to blessed, viral Enukel wedding turns into a spectacle. Even radio stations were buzzing. Callers debated who was at fault, while gospel stations labeled it God's divine turnaround. On Instagram, hashtags churned. Hashtag Naija wedding drama. Hashtag Amara the queen. Hashtag triplet proof. Comment sections burned with takes. Men will blame women for everything, SMH. She's a queen for walking in with dignity. That mama-in-law better crawl under the ground. Kioma, run, my sis, he's not worth it. While the internet roared, Amara's house was quiet. She sat at home, bottle-feeding Kosisochuku as Obi scrolled Twitter and read comments out loud like stage plays. Listen to this one. Emeka's pride was taller than the hotel chandelier. She snorted. Another one. See as God turned rejection into red carpet entrance. Amara chuckled softly, shaking her head. People and their mouths. Dubem brought her a hot cup of chamomile tea. He stooped low, kissed her forehead, and asked gently, "How do you feel?" She thought for a moment, rocking the baby against her chest. "Lighter, like I finally put down something I've been carrying all these years." Obi grinned over her phone. "You don't even know! Internet has carried your matter worldwide. Someone on TikTok said Nollywood producers should beg for the rights." Meanwhile, across town, Emeka's mansion in Independence Layout sank in chaos. Mama Okonkwo sobbed endlessly in her lace wrapper, wailing, "My son's name is finished. Our enemies have triumphed. How will we show our faces in church?" Emeka stayed in his locked room, phone off, blinds shut. For the first time in his life, no Rolex, no Agbada, no expensive decor could cover his shame. His empire of pride cracked open in one afternoon. Kioma, back in her Lagos apartment, took to Instagram with elegance and finality. "I was misled about the circumstances surrounding my partner's past. I will not be proceeding with this relationship. This decision was not easy, but my peace is priceless. I wish healing for everyone involved." The comments poured in. "Queen behavior. You dodged a missile. Peace is priceless. Write that on a billboard." Business ripples followed quickly. Two of Emeka's business partners requested urgent meetings. His import deals suddenly looked unstable. Clients withdrew pending contracts. In Nigeria, reputation could collapse an empire faster than bankruptcy, and Emeka's shame was now a viral currency. But across Enugu, at Amara's kitchen, blessings multiplied. Customers stacked at the doorway. Some wanted food, some simply wanted to see the woman from the wedding. Elderly women pressed her hand, whispering, "My daughter, my own husband blames me. Can I get Dr. Namdi's number?" Amara wrote the number on scraps of paper without hesitation. "Tell her she is not alone. Tell her to stand for truth." That later, Dr. Namdi himself called her. His voice was filled with wonder. "My office has received 47 calls from women asking for fertility assessments since yesterday. Amara, without knowing, you've given women courage to demand the truth." Amara sat silent a moment. Then tears slipped down her cheeks, not for her own story, but for the generations of women fighting assumptions. The very pain that once crushed her was now turning into liberation for others. And then, 3 weeks after that unforgettable non-wedding, a courier brought a small envelope to her door. The handwriting was stiff, but unmistakable. Emeka's. The letter was 2 pages, written in Emeka's neat but heavy script. Amara sat at her dining table, the triplets asleep, Dubem working in the other room. She opened it cautiously. "Dear Amara, I don't expect you to read this. I don't deserve even your time. But I need to write. What I did to you was unforgivable. I blamed you for what was mine. I listened to my mother's poison instead of protecting my wife. I let pride dictate my choices, and it destroyed the only woman who truly loved me for myself, not my wealth, not my appearances. When I saw you walk into that hall, with your children, with your head high, I finally understood what I lost. Not a womb, not fertility, but a partner, a heart, a good woman. I've been tested, Amara, and yes, the fault has always been mine. The result, very low sperm count. Treatable, the doctor said, with humility and assistance. But for me, it feels too late. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just want you to know, you were never barren. You were never broken. I was. My pride was the curse. I am beginning treatment, not to fix the past, it cannot be fixed, but so I can face the truth at last, and perhaps spare someone else what I did to you. Thank you for not destroying me that day when you could have. Thank you for simply telling the truth. That strength taught me more than humiliation ever could. I wish you every blessing. You've earned them. Emeka. Amara folded the letter slowly. Her hands did not shake. She did not cry. She simply stared for a long moment, then slipped it into a drawer. Dubem walked in. "What's that?" She offered the letter. He scanned the words quickly, then looked at her. "How do you feel?" Amara smiled faintly. Sad for him, but not responsible. Not angry anymore. Just done. For the first time since her divorce, she realized she truly was free. That Sunday, she stood at church during testimony and said only this: "God proved me innocent. He made me whole again, and He taught me my worth does not rest in anyone else's opinion." Women wept. Some shouted, and Obi clapped so hard she nearly broke her palms. 6 months later, Amara's world looked unrecognizable. Amara's kitchen and events had expanded into a catering hub with 12 employees, a boutique storefront, and an event planning service. She wasn't just cooking meals anymore. She was delivering entire weddings, birthdays, and ceremonies. The triplets, now 8 months old, crawled across the floor like little whirlwinds, climbing tables, pulling curtains, creating laughter chaos wherever they went. Obi, now happily dating a schoolteacher Namdi introduced her to, visited often as their official godmother. "You inspired me to try again," she told Amara one night over suya sticks. "Seeing you rebuild made me realize I could too." Namdi himself graduated university, and at his party, catered by his sister, he raised a glass and declared, "Amara is my hero. She raised me when our father died, and when life tried to break her, she became stronger." Amara cried, clutching her brothers and her 3 sons at the same time. Even Dr. Namdi was touched by her ripple effect. He called one day to say, "Amara, you've become a symbol of hope. Women arrive at my clinic saying, 'I want to be strong like the triplet woman.'" One afternoon, scrolling Instagram, Amara stumbled onto a surprising post. Emeka. His profile now bore the name Fertility Truth Initiative, a foundation providing free male fertility testing across Enugu. His caption read, "My ignorance hurt lives I was meant to protect. I can't undo my past, but I can help others face the truth I once ran from." Amara showed Dubem. He nodded thoughtfully. "People can change." She nodded. "Doesn't mean I need to be part of his journey, but I'm glad he's on one." That evening, as Dubem bathed their sons, splashes soaking the entire bathroom, Amara leaned on the doorway watching. Her home buzzed with laughter, her business flourished, her peace intact. She thought back to that night years ago when she left with 3 suitcases and nothing else. She whispered softly into the laughter-filled bathroom, "Thank you, God. You didn't just restore me, you gave me more than I even knew to ask for." And when Shimabi raised dripping hands and shouted, "Mama!" she reached back, whole, healed, home. Amara's story is more than just a tale of a groom humiliated or a viral showdown at a wedding. It is a mirror. a loud, clear mirror showing us the truths we'd rather not confront about family, marriage, culture, and self-worth. For years, Amara lived under a crushing label, barren. The word followed her into rooms, echoed at family gatherings, pierced her at night while she lay awake wondering what was wrong with her. And she believed it, because everyone around her seemed to believe it. But here is the lesson. A lie repeated often enough still does not become truth. It never did. When the truth surfaced through medical tests, it was simple, scientific, undeniable. Her body was healthy. She never needed prayers to fix her womb. She needed her husband to face reality. But he didn't. And that failure was not her burden to carry. So to the women listening, who have been blamed silently or publicly, who have been questioned cruelly, please hear this. You are not your womb. Your worth is not measured in children. You are human, whole, valuable, today, right now, with or without pregnancy. It is not barrenness that breaks lives. It is ignorance. It is stigma. It is pride.